Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
Early morning on the river, the sights, the sounds, the sweet smells. Early morning on the river, the peace, the quiet, the Hi, I'm Doug Phillips. I've spent a lifetime exploring the wonderful wildlands of Alabama, and all that time I've never found myself afraid, until now. But I do not have a fear of the wild. I have a fear for the wild. Every day, more and more of our precious Alabama wildlands are being ground up. And here along the banks of Madison County's Flint River is no exception. The timeless beauty of nature's creation is giving way to the contemporary design of man's handiwork. Come along with me and let's enjoy a pleasant float on the Flint while we still can. This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has maintained its native natural wonders, a place of bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the wild wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama. Welcome to Discovering Alabama, and welcome to the Flint River. The Flint is one of those remarkable places in Alabama that, until recently, hasn't drawn much attention to itself. The Flint is one of three significant rivers that originate in Tennessee and terminate in Alabama at the Tennessee River. There is the Paint Rock to the east, the Elk to the west, and the Flint. The Flint River spends the majority of its journey running through Madison County, Alabama. You may be familiar with Flint Creek, which runs through Morgan County and finds the Tennessee River just east of Decatur. The Flint River skirts to the east of Huntsville at a point where two physiographic provinces come together, the Highland Rim and the Cumberland Plateau. This helps create some of the diverse and unique features of the river and its 568 square mile watershed. Freshwater springs give it birth above the Tennessee line, and an abundance of springs nurture the Flint along its trek to the Tennessee River. It's easy to imagine an abundance of life springing up along this river long before the first Europeans discovered its bounty. Archaeologists believe that around 11,000 BC, the very earliest human inhabitants arrived in what we now call Alabama. Many of the artifacts of these Paleo-Indians have been uncovered in North Alabama. The Tennessee River and its tributaries, like the Flint, attracted these hunter-gatherers as evidenced by the projectile points, awls, pins, and primitive fishhooks found at prehistoric sites. Today, we're still fishing these waters. though the fishing technology has changed a bit. Catching anything?
Catching a few.
All right, well, you got a good day for it. Good luck. The archaeological evidence indicates a prehistoric human presence in the Tennessee Valley stretching back millennia. And for all that time, the Flint River meandered relatively unchanged. But once we reached historic times, things began to change rather rapidly.
If you remember that the central part of the state is the last part of the state that is open to settlement, basically after the Second Creek War, 1835-36. The early settlement is actually down the Tennessee River and into the Tennessee Valley, through Cumberland Gap, across the mountains of Tennessee, down the valleys, following the Clinch River and the Cumberland River and the Tennessee River, and they're settling the Tennessee Valley. The people who are coming through the Tennessee River system are mainly Scotch-Irish. They're mainly Presbyterian, and they're mainly Baptist, and they're mainly Methodist. They're strongly Calvinist. They're mainly white. They don't bring a lot of slaves with them, although there are plantations in the Tennessee Valley. And so they tend towards subsistence agriculture, corn, small farms, no slaves, individual farm owners.
Here along the banks of the Flint River, you can still make the connection to the agricultural roots of the Tennessee Valley.
Well, it's meant so much to me because I've been lucky and lived a long time, but it gets in your blood, there ain't no way to get it out. Of course, farming changed dramatically. We worked mules and horses. My dad used saddle horses like I use a pickup. Back then it was mostly pretty well diversified. We had a few beef cattle, the mountain, and wheat, corn, beans, and cotton.
It's easy to romanticize the good old days, but we would do well to remember that throughout our history, we've learned some hard lessons.
Well, we've learned a lot through the last several years about environmental farming and the way to minimize what would have been a destructive feature through the years of pesticide, herbicide runoff, which would have an impact upon everything that's in the river. Today, we find the farmer utilizing things where they can monitor the amount of pesticides, fertilizers, and herbicides that are put on the land with so much more precision, and the river's benefited from it. In the 70s and in the 60s, before that, a lot wasn't known about the effects of toxic chemicals in a farming environment, really what impact they do have. We've learned a lot in the last 30 to 40 years.
Certainly we have learned a lot, and perhaps we won't make the same mistakes again. Then again, perhaps we'll find new mistakes to make, take mistakes to a whole new level.
You can go to a mile on either side of here and you can find new housing developments being put in. And that almost always involves clearing the land and not doing a very good job of putting in siltation fences and stuff like that. So that's profoundly altering a lot of the land here. I've read the figure that in Madison County, they figure by the year 2020, there won't be any more working farms in this county, which is kind of a scary thought. I realize they're still hard to find. Most of the housing developments here are being built on recent cotton fields, and that shows no sign of stopping. Redstone arsenal is expanding. What it means is the area will face more, especially non-point source pollution, just ambient pollution coming from everybody's yard, everybody's backyard, which involves a lot of lawn fertilizers, pesticides, residues of dog poop, etc. So I've even seen one specific example of that happening at a tributary spring to the river just north of here. It's this beautiful deep water spring that is now on the edge of a suburban development that's been there for roughly 15 years. And I'm sure the people who live there have no idea what's in this spring, but it's a classic spring. It does have a lot of this specific type of algae and other plants growing in it. And it's got an extremely good population of a threatened fish called the flame chub, which I've been researching the last several years. So we've been saved so far, but these people are doing their best to kill off this spring.
Surely Huntsville and Madison County are growing extremely fast, and we encourage growth all the time. Everywhere we look, there's new growth. The projection is we are supposed to grow by 50% build out. That's, infrastructure build out by the year 2020. And 50% build out means literally all the farmlands are gone. Everything is gone in Madison County except the mountain lands. And of course the mountain lands are real important to the watershed, especially the Flint River, because it originates in the Cumberlands. But unfortunately that is not going to be enough land to protect the watershed. At 20% build out, there's already degradation in stream and river systems. And we are way beyond that. We're up beyond 33% now.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Wayne.
Picked a good day for it.
I've been enjoying up here in your part of the world today.
Weather's unusually nice for this late in this month.
Let me get this thing beat and I'll visit a while.
You got it?
How are you?
Good to see you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, you don't look wet, so I guess you didn't turn over.
J. Wayne Fears is a wildlife biologist renowned for his outdoor writing. Author of more than 20 books and thousands of magazine articles, Wayne is a longtime friend with a special connection to the Flint River.
This is where you were raised, isn't it? Up here in this part of the
Yeah,
world?
this river was my playground from the mid-40s through the mid-50s. I hunted, fished, trapped, learned to swim in this river, did a little bit of all of it.
How do you remember it back in those days before, the world changed so much?
Well, number one, the thing you remember most is there weren't a lot of houses along the river. The farmhouses had back up near the main road, so you didn't have any development along the river at all. The fishing was good up until about the early 50s. DDT was used in a lot of these cotton farms around here. And we noticed it dramatically in the fisheries here. It went down and went down fast.
Thinking back about certain environmental abuses of the past, we had that period called cut out and get out, around the turn of the early 1900s. Wiped out much of the timber in the South, but give nature a chance, it's made a comeback to an extent. How would you compare that kind of environmental change with what we see today?
Well, when they came in and took the timber out, nature took care of that pretty quick. Timber came back, natural regeneration repines. DDT problem, we realized we had a problem. We took DDT out of the formula, the river came back. But when you line a river with $700,000 to $1 million homes, that's not going to come back. Those people aren't going to move. Those roads, all that paving, all those roofs, it's going to be there. It's going to be there when you and I are long gone. So that's the difference. We went from mismanagement to long-term, literally robbing the natural resource for the future generations, and that's exactly where we are right now.
Wayne, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Doug.
I got to hit the river because I got some more paddling to do here today.
Well, you got a pretty strip down through here. Hope you enjoy it, and it's good to have you in North Alabama.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The contributions of Huntsville to the space program are well known. It was here that the Saturn V, the most powerful engine in our history, was designed and built. One giant leap for mankind.
One giant leap indeed, but you know the old saying, they can put a man on the moon, but.
In this case, I would have to say they can put a man on the moon, but they can't leave him there for very long. Why? Well, there's no fresh air to breathe, no clean water to drink. Yes, for all our amazing technological creations, we are still tethered to this earth by our need for nature's creations.
The creation, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, it all depends on natural systems.
Yeah, most people given a choice want clean water, clean air. I mean, it's hard to find anybody against that, but then it's a question of, okay, what do I do? What small lifestyle change do I have? Me and 10,000 of my closest friends.
The Flint River is actually the source of most of the drinking water for Madison County. And the way we know that is the USGS did a NAQUA study back in the late 90s and early 2000s. During that time, they found out that the plume, as it exits the mouth of the Flint River and goes into the Tennessee River, goes about a mile to the intake for Huntsville Utilities. So we're drinking Flint River water in Madison County.
Here in Huntsville and Madison County, a number of good, smart folks recognize the values and the threats to the Flint River.
Yeah, road is contributing because really roads, neighborhoods point to like a ridge or a tree and say, it's all your fault, folks.
Some of the organizations that are very active in the Madison County area are the Flint River Conservation Association, of course, because they are very concerned about the watershed as a whole and non-point source pollution, and agencies like the Nature Conservancy and the Land Trust of Huntsville and North Alabama. And we all work together to try to not only conserve lands, but conserve what's happening on them. This area is perfect as a groundwater recharge area, because water will pond for a very little while and it'll recharge the groundwater without running off. This is a wonderful thing about wetlands, and that's why this workshop wants to instate the importance of wetlands, and it cannot overstate it to you. These are so important for our groundwater. The Hayes Nature Preserve and the Goldsmith-Schiffman Wildlife Sanctuary are two wonderful areas on the Flint River in Madison County, constituting 1,000 acres of bottomland hardwoods. We have Tupelo sloughs, we have other types of swamps, water oak swamps, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful place for wildlife habitat. Both of these are set aside for the public and also as watershed education centers for Madison County and regionally.
The Hayes Nature Preserve offers opportunities for discovery that only nature can provide.
Swamps are part of watersheds. Does anyone actually know the definition of a watershed?
No.
No. Well, when we have streams and swamps and lakes, when it rains, the water has to go where? It has to go lower. It has to go into the ponds. It has to go in your streams. It has to go in rivers, swamps. all that kind of stuff. All of where the water drains into, including the ponds, the swamps, and the rivers, is part of a watershed. Right now we're in the Flint River watershed, which takes up probably 60% of Madison County.
In Huntsville, throughout Alabama, across America, good men and women are coming together to take a stand for the natural world.
We teach our children. We band together to form grassroots organizations. Local governments establish greenways and preserves. We look to the federal government to protect endangered species. But so what? As a society, we continue to separate ourselves from the natural world. Oh, we'll build our homes around nature themes, but this is a nature that has been bent to accommodate our whims, our idea of what nature should be. In short, it's rather unnatural.
Well, looking into the future, we know that this area is going to be one of the growing areas in the state of Alabama for several years to come. So we see people moving from all over the country, and that's one of the things that worries me about Madison County and its growth, is marrying good development with the environmental issues. It's upon us to see that the resources that we have are developed in an environmentally sound manner.
I'd like to see it stay as it is. Yeah. Because it looks like all of Madison County is going to be in houses before it's over.
Our need to explore has propelled us all the way to the moon. But of course, most of us will have to settle for adventure that's a little more down to earth.
Words like exploration, adventure, they tend to make us think of great activity. But sometimes the greatest adventure leads to tranquility.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
This is a little refuge for people to come down here and relax and fish and watch nature, just enjoy life. Want to kind of slow down.
I like to be out and listen to nature and just be by myself. And this is the kind of thing we need for our sanity. I mean, the hectic life that we live in city and suburban environments is just killing us. It really is. We need to be out in environments like this, and it's only for our own health and self-awareness.
Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History, the University of Alabama. This program is supported by grants from the Solon and Martha Dixon Foundation, the Alabama Wildlife Federation, working for wildlife since 1935, and the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Lands Division.